Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you are brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And before we get too far into the video, I did want to thank today's sponsor, which is Star Stable. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about it. Star Stable is a super cute multiplayer computer game full of horses, fun quests, and adventure. You can take on challenges with your friends, and the game is free up until level 5. You can get 1 week free of Star Rider time by downloading the game via the link in the description box below as well. You can customize your character and your horse and then download the game. Step 1 is to confirm your email. Step 2 is to download the game and then launch. It was so easy to get started, and I was excited to jump in the second I downloaded the game. You only have to download it once, and then it will be ready on your computer whenever you'd like to play. The magical world of Jorvik is really pretty. There are tons of in-game gear, pets, outfits, and different horses to choose from as you progress. I ran a few races because I wanted to learn how to be the best racer, and I did want to join the racing team as well. Again, you can get 1 week free of Star Rider time by downloading the game via the link in the description box below. You will definitely want to check out this game if you love casual, laid-back gameplay and a chance to meet others all around the world. And thank you so much to Star Stable for sponsoring today's video and supporting my channel. Now let's get back to a very special build. So this build is actually inspired by the game Star Stable. I was so excited to try to replicate something that I saw in the game. So there are multiple locations, and one of the locations that I was really attracted to was actually the very first starting location. It is at the Moorland Stables, and this home, so it's a little bit more decorative, I will admit. It's heavily inspired by though. But we're building in Henford-On-Bagley because this home looked like a mix between something that you would find in Henford-On-Bagley or Windenburg. It was a very healthy mix. I'll actually put a inspiration picture, more so a screenshot, of the actual home in game on screen for you right now. Now in the game, this home is kind of enclosed. It has a little bit of a paddock. That's what I would call it. I don't think that's actually really what you would call it, but I'm going to call it like a little bit of a paddock. And it was surrounded by taller walls. It had some gates and everything, which is why I was on this huge lot in Henford-On-Bagley. I was like, I can definitely do this. I think I can make something a little bit more enclosed. I think it would look really nice. However, it was way too closed off for me, and it got me thinking because there is an actual stable right outside the gates of that estate. I'm going to call it an estate because it was a pretty big house, but there's a stable right outside where you can go ahead and care for your horse and check in with a few other members of the community and the family. So I thought to myself, you know what I'll do is I will create the home, and I'm going to combine two ideas. I'm going to take the home and then I'm going to take the stable, and I want to see how I can translate that over to The Sims 4. So though we do start on this lot because I was thinking it was going to be huge, especially even with a stable, I thought it was going to be giant, but I found a way to move this to a smaller lot that I think works so much nicer. But you can see here that I am using the tool mod, and I'm using a couple of those different roof decorations from Cottage Living to create some of the more intricate wood details that I was seeing on the home in the game itself, and I thought it came out so nice. I was shocked. I was so happy with it. Those roof decorations are, how do I say this? They are so versatile. That's the word I was looking for. They are so versatile for adding different details. But you can see here that I was going kind of with that idea to create the enclosure, but it actually didn't leave me enough room, I don't think, for the stable and the size that I was originally thinking. I also wanted the lot to be centered just because in The Sims it can look a little bit wonky if things aren't centered sometimes, not all the time, but I wasn't really sure what else I could do with the lot outside of that because there were a lot of shops and everything in this area in the game, and I just knew for it to function in The Sims, I wanted it to be purely residential. I didn't want to kind of play around with like little retail spaces or vendors and things like that. But originally there were these kind of like stable doors and everything, and I was trying to find a gate that would be able to replicate what I saw in game, but I just really couldn't do it, especially with the space that I was allotting. So I toyed around with a gate, I toyed around with a fence, and trying to kind of come up with my own little entryway. Again, trying to use the tool mod to do that and turn these little roof pieces, but I just didn't like how it was coming out, so eventually we're going to do it at some point very soon. We end up going to a smaller lot so we can kind of get to the finished product and really bring the vision to life, because I was so ecstatic. I was thrilled with how this came out, and I think it's mainly because it was so cool to actually see something translate from another game into The Sims. And then number 2, I haven't built something that's kind of like a cottage in what feels like a really long time. So you can see here that we have moved to the smaller lot, and this is the barn that I ended up making. Now what's really, really, really cool, and I hadn't tried this before, I'm so happy that it ended up working. I play tested it for so long to make sure it worked, but I was following Sati Sim Builds, or Sati, I think Sati is actually how you pronounce her name, but I was following her tutorial on how to make your own custom, what are they called? The little animal sheds. That's what I was thinking. So you guys are going to see that I'm going to be using a ton of tool, going in and out of a weird basement that's not really a basement. You guys will see it. But here we are trying to lay out the fences and trying to kind of figure out how I wanted to enclose the property. So I used a stone wall around the main residence for the most part, and then I used this really pretty fence that we have in debug. I think it's even base game, and there also might be a version with Get Together, I'm not sure, but it has like some plants kind of growing over it. I thought it worked so nicely here with all of the little plant details and grass details that I added, but I thought it was really pretty. I even put one at an angle to make it look like a gate that was open, and then I pulled out tons of decor items from Cottage Living, knowing that this was going to be very much so like a farm. I did temporarily toy around with that little vendor stand inside the barn because, again, trying to think of what was in Star Stable, but I really didn't think it was going to work here, so I decided to just make that a barn or an animal shed for 3 different cows. You guys will see it. But now I'm adding some grass details over here to these cracked little stone tiles. I thought it was so pretty. I think I saw a Pug-owned Sims over on Twitter doing this with a build recently, and it blew my mind because it looked so good, so I just had to replicate it. I am just so inspired by so many freaking people. I am so inspired by these people because they make such amazing things and they come up with such creative ideas. But here I am following that tutorial by Sati. So you essentially shrink down the little animal shed. I think I did it with the tool mod to about 0.4 or something like that. It could be 0.04. I cannot remember. Please follow her tutorial. I will link it down in the description below if you guys want to learn how to do this. But essentially you have to create a basement and you have to raise all other objects up via the basement so it doesn't block the cow or llama's access to the animal shed. And you also want to cover up the animal sheds, but not to the point that you can't click on them, because you're going to have to click on them to be able to clean it, to be able to refill the feed and all that fun stuff. And I also, it was so cute in her tutorial, there was this like animal trough, because the animals just have to like eat hay. That's pretty much all you give them. You give them hay and feed, but they don't have water. So I used these bathtubs, the same as she used in her tutorial, and I raised them up from the basement to look like little animal troughs. And I loved it so much. I was ecstatic to see this work. I was so happy. I also covered up the little animal sheds with these buckets from Cottage Living, but as you can tell, there are still some points where you can click on it because, again, it will be important. But it worked so nicely. I immediately did this and I was like, all right, before I move on, I have to make sure that this works. So I had my playtest sim come over, call the cows out of their animal sheds. They all came stumbling out. It was so nice. I was so happy. It's such a cool idea, and I don't know how you all come up with these things. Like, I don't know how people come up with these tips and tricks. It just takes so much patience, I'm sure. But now we are on to the interior. I did add a pond and a little water mill off camera just because I was toying around with so many details. It was getting a little bit tedious and I didn't want to bore you guys too much. But we're on to the interior, and the first thing I did was really just try to lay out where some of the things were going to go. Because in Star Stable, you don't actually get to go inside the home, or at least I haven't been able to yet. So I didn't have any reference pictures to go off of for the interior, which kind of left me in a place to be very creative with who I envisioned living here. But I did end up making this a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, I want to say, which is kind of not what I was expecting. I think because it was a very just square and or rectangular home, I wasn't sure how much space I would be able to make inside. But the first room we work on is the kitchen, and I love the kitchen. I think the kitchen and the kids' room, which you guys will see a little bit later on, are my favorite rooms in this entire house. I adore them. I just love this kitchen because I use this flooring from the pack that must not be named, Journey to Batu, but it's amazing. I love it. It kind of made this home a little bit more rustic, especially because I added the Jungle Adventure. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I used a mixture of Get Together and Jungle Adventure to kind of replicate what the exterior looked like. And the Jungle Adventure one had like stone on the bottom, like kind of broken up stone. So I thought it would be nice to use a stone texture throughout the entire build here. And I wanted to use kind of this flagstone floor. I thought it looked so nice, but I did lighten things up a little bit in the kitchen. I used a combination of some white woods, some creams, and I guess some darker woods, but there's also soft woods too. There's like tons of different wood colors in this build, but for some reason, I think they actually worked really, really nicely. And I don't typically think that way when I mix wood tones. When I do it, I'm like, no, that's garbage. When other people do it, I'm absolutely amazed. So I decided to just go with it and see how things started to come together. And I really, really spent my time trying to just do some different things, at least what felt different for me, like mixing those different wood tones, trying to bring in different elements to really show that this is an older home. And I thought it came out really nice. So this is the dining table. I did playtest every single chair, and your Sims can access them no problem, even with that big china cabinet thing over there in the corner. And I added this kind of faux island as well, because you saw me toying around with the counters and it really just wasn't coming together. So I ended up using this console table as a faux island. And I knew I wanted to add a few different details underneath there, some different like clutter items. So you guys will see that there's kind of like some crates of fruit, which I thought was kind of cute on a farm. And what else did I add? I think there's like a milk jug from milking the cows. I think I put a few of them outside as well off camera, but I put one on the inside too, because there's one in base game, which I thought was very interesting. I'm going to call it a milk jug, that thing right there. I don't actually know what it's called, but that's what I refer to it as. And then I think I also just put a few like wicker baskets just to kind of add to the touch of things. And this cute little thing, this little, I'm going to call it like a beer keg, right? That looks like a keg, like an old fashioned keg. I put 2 of those in there just because I thought it looked really cute. I added another little china cabinet because I guess you can never have too many of them, in my opinion. And then I just went to town cluttering up the rest of the kitchen. It's probably the most cluttered room aside from the kids' room. Kids' rooms are always cluttered though. I always go crazy with kids' rooms. And I added this little chicken basket decor thing, and then I just kind of pulled out some things that I thought looked a little bit more rustic and fit this build really, really nicely, in my opinion. You guys can of course think differently, but I really, really enjoyed it. It's the room that I spent the most amount of time on, I'm fairly certain. I may have even decorated some of the hallways off camera because I can never think of something exciting for hallways. Literally never. I can never think of exciting things for hallways. It's a console table, it's a plant, it's a chair. That's what you guys get. But I also wanted to just loop back to the barn too. I was thinking about this and I didn't even say it when I was making it, but trying to translate this home from Star Stable into The Sims, I really wanted to make sure that not only was I kind of creating a bit of a replica, something heavily inspired, but I wanted to make sure that it served a purpose for you all because we don't have horses, which is such a bummer. We had horses in The Sims 3 and it was kind of great, but I wanted it to really serve a purpose, which is why I ended up doing the animal sheds with the cows and or llamas, whichever you choose. So that was kind of the thought behind it. I wanted this to be really useful, so I hope you guys enjoy it. But this is one of the big hallways because I had no other way to separate this floor plan. There's also this little tiny entryway, nothing extravagant, but I did this fun thing with the shoes. You can see I sized them down because there's a child and a toddler in this build. So I was thinking there's the parents' shoes, the kids' shoes, which is just a little bit smaller, and then the toddler shoes are just a little teeny tiny. It made me so happy. I loved it so much. I did that in another build that you all have not seen yet. It's going to be my... I'm not even going to say it. No, I can't spoil it. Okay. I have a build coming though, which is for 8 Sims, and I'm really excited about it. But I did that as well in the entryway with the shoes, which is why I ended up doing it here. I was so excited. I thought it was such a cute idea. And here there is a console table, again, trying to bring in more rustic elements to this home because my feeling is that the Moorland Stables, I mean, it's set in the countryside. It really is. It's really beautiful. And actually, this lot in Henford-On-Bagley reminds me of going to one of the forts in Star Stable. You have to kind of go up this winding dirt road hill to get to a particular fort, and the name is completely escaping me right now. I should have written it down, but it was really, really pretty. So when I found this lot in Henford-On-Bagley to try to move the home to from that giant 50 by 50, it was perfect. So here is the living room. I do put 2 bookcases on the back wall, and I did create a custom coffee table. I'm going to say custom because I used the tool mod, but I stacked 2 of these little console tables that look like suitcases because I wanted it to be the appropriate height, but I didn't want all the electronics showing on that bottom shelf. So I just sunk it into the floor because there was no elevation to this home. If I had done that on the 2nd floor, it would have been a problem. It would have poked right through the ceiling. But I thought it was a really cute setup. I use this couch from Cats and Dogs, and we do use those curtains from Cats and Dogs throughout the entire build as well. I know some people have mixed feelings on them. I personally love those curtains. I think they're really cute. I would use them in like a grandparent's home, something out in the country like I'm doing here. I use them probably more than I thought I ever would, though there's certain swatches I will never touch, like would not touch with a 10-foot pole. I don't know. Some of them are just very, very bright, but maybe for like a more colorful build, it would be fitting. Anyway, I'm decorating another console table because I just like to repeat myself, and it's on pretty much like almost the same wall as the one out in the hallway. But I also used these pictures from Cats and Dogs a lot because they're just so appropriate for this country setting. And I think the living room is pretty cute, even though it's not as big as I was anticipating. Like once I actually placed the fireplace, I was like, this isn't as big as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to have so much more room to play around with things, maybe add some like kid or toddler activities, but I really did not have that space. I do give them a TV here. I was kind of debating, but I ended up giving them a TV, and it's this little tiny one from Eco Lifestyle that I think is basically a replica of one that we had in The Sims 1. I say The Sims 1, that sounds really weird, but I'm just saying like the original Sims. And I also cluttered up the coffee table just a little bit. And then this is going to be the downstairs bathroom, which does have a tub only, not a shower tub combo. I believe that both of the bathrooms upstairs will have shower tub combos, which is nice. Since I was envisioning a toddler in this build, I do go back and add a toddler potty off camera. But again, with toddlers, you do have to have a bathtub to be able to bathe them, though I think you can technically vacuum them clean if you have the Bust the Dust kit. Such a mouthful, I can never say it. But I think you can do that. I decided to give them a bathtub, or at least a few to choose from. But this is going to be the parents' room. And upstairs, I don't know what sparked this. I'm thinking that it's because of this bed. Like I chose this bed from Cats and Dogs, yet again, just tons of cats and dogs in this build. And I liked the wood tones, which came with this green comforter. And I was like, all right, that's pretty. It's earthy. Everything looks to flow together. There's the green in the curtains. I like it. And that pretty much set the tone for the entire upstairs. Every single bedroom actually has the same color scheme, which is not something that I do very often. I've done it often enough that you might be sitting there being like, no, I've seen you do this. It's not a big deal. To me, it's kind of a big deal because the bedrooms are always where I customize things to the Sims, whether it's their favorite color, their favorite activities, etc. So having the same color scheme in all of the bedrooms was actually a little bit odd for me. But I did it. I think I stuck with green for every single bedroom, and I was really surprised as to how much I actually liked it. I really didn't think I was going to like it, especially in like the toddler room. The kids room, I knew I was going to like it. So this is going to be the kids room. There are some awkward window placements here just with how I divvied up the floor plan, but I essentially cover up that little tiny window in the kids room, and I didn't put a curtain on the one that's in the parents room. You guys can do whatever you would like with it, but I just didn't like it in the kids room. But the kids room is very cluttered. I think though I was able to get a chemistry station in this kids room, and I used this rug from Strangerville that I haven't used in I don't even know how long, and I thought it matched perfectly with the soft browns and the earthy greens, the very earthy tones that I ended up going for in this build. But I do have this chemistry station. I added a mirror and then just tons of different things on the walls because I always like to do that with kids' rooms. I was thinking that maybe this child was really into sports and science. It's kind of fun, well-rounded kiddo, right? And I think that they also really like trucks, not cars, trucks. So I added one model truck here. that's about as far as I was able to go with it because we don't really have anything else themed towards that. I think there's a painting from Strangerville that I probably could have put in here if I had thought about it because it does have a truck on it, but I didn't think it was going to match the theme of the build, so I ended up not using it. But that was kind of the idea. I think they're just a kid and they're exploring tons of different things. They're not sure exactly what they're going to stick with in regards to their interests as they get older, but that's what they're really into right now. And then there's an extra wardrobe here in this little tiny hallway where I would think that they would keep like their linens and stuff like that. And this is going to be the toddler room. I do love the toddler room. I made a little nook, so you can see the beds in there right now, but what I end up doing is I end up actually separating the space and hanging curtains. You can see me doing it here. I was kind of playing around with it, but the curtains looked like they were floating and I didn't really like it, so I had to toy around with a spandrel. Is that the appropriate word? I think it's a spandrel. I had to toy around with the spandrels because I wanted it to look like the curtains were actually mounted, and I thought it was so cute because then you could just close the little curtains. It's almost like a canopy bed, but without the actual like four-poster stuff like that. I thought it was so cute, and I really liked it because it allowed me just a little bit more space in the rest of the room to decorate it. I used this dresser from Cottage Living, and I did put it at an angle. I kind of closed off that space just to make it look like it fit there a little bit better. And then I think I also get a dollhouse in here as well as the rocking chair. And I don't know if I keep the bookcase. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But I don't know. It was a really cute toddler room. And again, I do add the toddler potties to all of the bathrooms, which I don't show the rest of the bathrooms, by the way. At least not in the build footage itself. You'll see it in the screenshots because bathrooms are kind of boring to me. And there were 2 more to furnish. But there's also going to be a family computer out on the landing area, as well as a little kiddo chair and some toddler blocks. But that is pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you so much again to Star Stable for sponsoring today's video. And don't forget that you can get a week free of Star Rider if you use the link down below to download the game. And I will catch you all next time I post a video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.